This is a wild story. It's about how a huge pharmaceutical company, with a drug that was totally flopping, didn't just find new customers, they basically created a whole new medical condition for them. We're talking about the drug Fosamax and the incredible story of how its maker, Merck, built a billion-dollar market pretty much out of thin air.
All right, so picture this. It's 1995. The pharma giant Merck just got the green light from the FDA for a brand new, first-of-its-kind drug. It's called Fosamax. And its target? A really serious disease, osteoporosis, which makes bones super brittle and affects millions of women. I mean, on paper, this thing looked like a guaranteed home run, a real blockbuster.
But here's the twist. It wasn't a success, not even close. To make Fosamax a hit, Merck had to do something pretty radical. They helped take this little-known condition and push it into the mainstream, basically creating millions of new potential patients overnight. So the big question is, why? Why on earth would they have to do something like that?
Okay, so let's dive into the core problem Merck was up against. They thought they had a revolutionary product on their hands, but the launch, it was a total flop.
Yeah, this was the mission, handed down straight from Merck's president to a consultant named Jeremy Allen. Figured out this problem and fix it. I mean, you can just feel the urgency, right? Fosamax had all this potential, but it just wasn't selling. The company was scratching its head, totally baffled, and they needed an answer, like yesterday.
And get this wasn't just a bad launch week. This went on for 2 whole years. Sales were just flat, nothing. Here they have this supposedly game-changing drug for a disease that affects millions, and doctors just weren't writing prescriptions for it. So the team at Merck had to go on a hunt. They had to figure out, where's the disconnect? What's the roadblock standing between our drug and the people who need it?
And when they finally dug in, they realized something huge. The real problem, the actual bottleneck, it wasn't the drug. It was the diagnosis. I mean, think about it. You can't sell a solution to a problem if people don't even know they have the problem in the first place.
So that completely changed the game. It became their #1 strategic question. If we want to sell this drug, we first have to solve a way bigger problem. How do we get way more people diagnosed with weak bones to begin with? Back in 1995, actually getting diagnosed was a huge pain. First off, the scans were expensive. We're talking $200 to $350 a pop. The machines themselves were these giant, bulky things, and there were only a few hundred of them in the entire country. So for the average person, it was just way too much hassle and way too much money. Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Merck's big idea wasn't to double down on osteoporosis. No, it was to blow up the very definition of who should be worried about their bones. And to do that, they turned their focus to this little-known term, osteopenia. So let's be super clear on the difference here. Osteoporosis is the serious disease, right? That's when your bones are so brittle they can break easily. Osteopenia, on the other hand, was framed as, well, a sort of midpoint, a yellow light. It's a warning sign that says, hey, your bones are weaker than they should be, but you're not quite in the red zone yet.
But here's the kicker. The term osteopenia, it wasn't some medical diagnosis that doctors came up with for their patients. Nope. A group at the World Health Organization literally just made it up in 1992 as a category for research. It was supposed to be a tool for scientists studying populations, not something a doctor would tell you that you have. And this quote really says it all. The people who actually created the term were shocked by what happened. They never, ever thought that osteopenia would become a disease that people would need treatment for. But that's exactly where Merck was headed.
So there you have it. Merck now had its target, osteopenia, a condition that could potentially expand their market by millions and millions of people. Now all they had to do was execute the master plan to get all those people diagnosed.
And honestly, the plan was pretty brilliant and pretty simple. Part 1, get the scanning machines out of those fancy specialty centers and right into your local doctor's office. Part 2, make the scans so cheap that they become just another routine test, like getting your blood pressure checked.
Now, how did they pull this off? Well, their main tool was just genius. They created a nonprofit called the Bone Measurement Institute. I mean, it sounds so official, right? So respectable. It gave off this vibe of being an independent group just looking out for the public good. But if you pulled back the curtain, the reality was something else. The Institute was pretty much just that one consultant, Jeremy Allen, working at a desk inside Merck's headquarters. It was essentially a front, a clever tool designed specifically to execute their strategy.
And they attacked this from all sides. The Institute started promoting these new, smaller, cheaper scanners. Merck itself invested in the companies that were building them and even set up leasing programs so doctors could afford them. But the real masterstroke, the absolute game changer, was lobbying Congress to get the 1997 Bone Measurement Act passed. This made the scans reimbursable by Medicare. And just like that, testing wasn't just easy, it was actually a moneymaker for doctors' offices.
So the big question is, did all of this actually work? Oh yeah, the numbers are just staggering. The results weren't just good, they were absolutely explosive.
The effect was almost immediate. Check this out. In 1994, there were about 77,000 Medicare claims for bone scans. By 1997, that number jumped to over 1.5 million. That is a mind-blowing increase in just 3 years.
And the cost? Remember how it was over $200? It plummeted. The price for a scan dropped to less than $30. In one fell swoop, Merck had knocked down the two biggest walls standing in their way: access and cost. And for Merck, the payoff was just stunning. Fosamax sales went from basically nothing to over $1 billion by 1999, and it didn't stop there. By 2004, sales had tripled to over $3 billion. It's incredible. By completely reshaping the diagnostic landscape, Merck literally built its own blockbuster market from the ground up.
So, what can we learn from all this? Well, this whole story is basically a textbook example, a masterclass, in a strategy that we call market shaping.
When you break it down, the playbook is actually pretty clear. First, Merck spotted an unmet or maybe even an unrecognized need, and then they built an entire market around it. They started this work long before the drug was a success. They partnered with totally unconventional players, like the scanner manufacturers. And maybe most importantly, they understood that getting insurance to cover it is the key that unlocks everything. It's really a blueprint for how to turn a health concern into a massive commercial success.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. On one hand, Merck's campaign definitely helped millions of women pay attention to their bone health, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, it also took a simple category used for research and helped turn it into a widespread medical condition. So it really makes you think, where do we draw the line between disease awareness and disease creation?